It's time to pick a side. The Border War is on the air with BG and Tanner.
All right, everybody, welcome back into another week of the Border War. We want to thank you for tuning in last week, and we saw a spike in downloads. I think some of that spike in downloads, BG, may be from some new partnerships that we have come across, I guess.
I bet you're going to tell us about those, aren't you, Dan?
I will, because I think we pretty much have to. We joined up with Stadium Scene TV. If you didn't tune in, if you haven't checked out our NFL segment that we just did, we want to let you know we've joined up with Stadium Scene TV, or StadiumScene.tv, their network. Thank you to DJ for getting that put together. It's a cool website, a lot of things to check out, a lot of different podcasts. That's a really neat idea. We also want to let you know that we have added iTunes to the list of ways that you can now listen to the Border War, so make sure you get over there and download us and subscribe to us, or whatever it is that they will let you do. Just make sure that you are getting your fix of BG and the Tan Man.
If you're telling a friend about us, and obviously, basically everyone who has a smartphone has either Spotify or iTunes going on their phone. Just make sure you tell them when they search for it that they have to type the word "the."
The. It's very key.
The Border War.
Very key.
Because I've had 40 or 50 people tell me they can't find it, and then when I talk to them, they're just typing Border War. And that will not work. We wish it did. It seems like it should, but it does not on either of those platforms.
I'm sure that you can come across some podcast if you just type Border War, but it's probably not going to be us.
And it's going to be really different.
May have some controversial topics or controversial theories, which is an idea that I've recently pitched for a podcast and has been shot down. So if you come across one of those, that's not us. BG, unless you've been under
could be kind of a controversial topic we're talking about today.
Maybe. Unless you've been under a rock the last week or so, you have seen that the saga in San Antonio has finally come to an end. Mercifully, the Spurs have moved Kawhi Leonard. He is now north of the border. He is up with the Raptors. The Raptors send back among a myriad of pieces. The main prize in the deal that San Antonio brings back is DeMar DeRozan. So BG, I wanted to jump in and just talk for a few minutes and get your take on the L word in the world of sports. And I know it's not love, it's loyalty. The story coming out of Toronto was that DeMar DeRozan was in Las Vegas for the Summer League. He's meeting with the GM, and they're like, oh, no, you're good. We're not trading you. And then about 3 days later, it's, oh, yeah, we kind of did move you. We kind of would rather have Kawhi Leonard. And DeMar DeRozan was out of there. Here's a guy who had an opportunity to leave Toronto, which is not a destination city in the league. He had an opportunity to leave. He chose to stay, and he re-signed a couple years ago with the Raptors. So here's someone who wanted to be there. They win 59 games, and then the Raptors have decided to, cast their lot, so to speak, with Kawhi Leonard. So BG, his feelings were hurt, understandably, but is there really ever a right time to make a move like that with a franchise superstar, or are you better off just playing it safe and keeping him around there and I guess showing him that air quote loyalty?
Well, this is going to sound like I'm not going to answer your question, but I am. You're not a big Star Wars fan, is that correct, man?
I think that's a pretty safe assumption, yes.
Okay, so you may or may not know that, Star Wars was around...
Is that the one with Spock?
No, I wish you would stop, and you knew better than to ask that question. Late 70s, early 80s, then there were 3 more movies in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then there weren't any more Star Wars movies for about 12 years, and Disney recently bought the franchise. And just to keep this succinct, they did things with their versions of Star Wars that have made the core base of fans, guys my age, very, very angry. And I think that's because there are certain things in our society that people have such a connection with that they feel some sense of ownership. And sports franchises, let's both agree on this, are one of those things. People take sports very personally.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
So if I am a big San Antonio Spurs fan, then I have, by the media, I have been fed this narrative that Kawhi Leonard, is the most unselfish, most team-oriented guy ever, to the point that he really isn't capable of even having much of a contract negotiation without people sort of saying, hey, Kawhi, I thought, blah, blah, blah.
And that narrative seems to have just turned overnight. All of a sudden, he went from being the team guy, and I love it, and all of a sudden, he hates it. It's awful. I want out.
He's the most hated man in San Antonio, absolutely. And in the NBA, it's a different situation completely, because I think there's a great deal of pressure on players to play for as much money as they can. Now, that doesn't seem to have been the complete issue here. But, you and I have talked a lot about locker room culture and team culture, and San Antonio is, of all three major sports, I think San Antonio is one of 5 teams you would bring up in any discussion of positive franchise culture. Would it not be? In the past, that's always been where we've been with them. In fact, heck, I would almost argue they would just be number 2 in an overall ranking behind the New England Patriots, and that's just because the Patriots have won more rings. But San Antonio has always seemed like a bastion of stability. You and I have both talked about Greg Popovich as if he's really never made a mistake. Is it possible he mishandled this? I don't know. It's probably as simple as a personality conflict between these two guys. But who are we saying should? So we're asking the question: Should Kawhi have been loyal to the Spurs because he's the one that started this?
Well, I thought, to me, it's more of a general question. I think there's kind of 3 layers. You have the players, you have the organization, then you have the fans. To me, as fans, we're loyal to the team because we always think we would play for free. Why is this guy doing this, or why is this guy holding out, or why did he leave to go to this place? The truth is, no, we wouldn't play for free, but we have it in our mind that we fall in love with the laundry. We fall in love with the star on the side of the helmet.
We make the mistake of thinking we know these guys, period.
Exactly.
That we know anything about them.
And
again, I've talked about this when I talk about paying college football players or anything else. We hold athletes in the United States as fans to standards that we hold no one else to. People quit their jobs all the time. People quit their jobs all the time. I don't like the way my boss treats me. I could go make more money here. And we don't think twice about it. Everybody does realize, of course, that's all Kawhi Leonard did, right? He just went to work for another employer.
Right.
But because it's sports, we do this whole different thing. So just a spoiler alert, no, I don't think there's a lot of place for loyalty in professional sports. There's place for loyalty if that player is winning you games and meshes well with what you're trying to do. But believe you me, these franchises don't have any loyalty to their players when that knee gets busted up. They don't have any loyalty to that player when that player turns 38 years old and just doesn't fit the plan anymore.
I think you're wrong.
Any different?
I think you're wrong. I think there is a place for it in sports, but both sides have to kind of, I guess that both sides have to kind of give a little. Take the Lakers, for instance. A few years ago, they gave Kobe Bryant this monster contract, and he ate up so much of their salary cap that there wasn't money to go out and get him any help. And it really hamstrung that organization, and you're seeing it right now. They're just now coming out of that 5 years later. The Lakers made a terrible decision to, I guess, show that love and show that loyalty to Kobe. But then, you look at the Dallas Cowboys with the Tony Romo situation a few years ago. Romo's healthy. He's ready to play. They, Could have offered him offered him the chance to move on. But he stuck around. He hung around and he stayed and he mentored Dak Prescott. Yeah, so I could see both sides.
Let's not lie, though. They shopped him and couldn't find what they wanted.
No.
The Cowboys wanted to trade Tony Romo.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. That's a lie. That's a lie. We wanted Tony to stay and show Dak Prescott how to be a pro because who better to stick around and lead this young man? What are we going to do? We're going to go bring in Colt McCoy to be a backup? Man, please.
Okay, listen.
Please.
Even if you're correct, let's say that.
So no, there is a time. To me, there is a time.
That's not loyalty. That's paying Tony Romo to do something different than just spend football games on the field. He's still performing a function that you think is worth his salary. That's fine. That's not loyalty.
No, to me that is loyalty.
That's usefulness.
No. We were loyal.
Loyalty is when
we were loyal to Tony
player,
Romo.
Loyalty is when you pay a player for one more year on their contract rather than cut them even though they're not worth the money anymore because of what they've done for you in the past. That is loyalty. And I don't think that goes on very much, and I think it's sort of silly to expect it to.
I think it goes on more than you think.
It could. It very well might. But I think it's more laziness on the part of general managers in that situation than loyalty.
Now, I think it goes on more than you think, and I do think that it is more of a loyalty thing than anything else. I mean, look at Dirk Nowitzki in Dallas. I mean, he's been playing on 1-year deals. He could probably go and get less money, he could probably go and get more money somewhere else. But he stays around Dallas. He gives Dallas the discount. I mean, you see guys all the time give these hometown discounts to teams. But the one thing that gets me is if a guy doesn't want to give a discount, all of a sudden he gets eviscerated in the media and the fan base. How this guy, he's not about the team. I think that's unfair.
Yeah, because, again, that's what we do all of the time. When you came out of college and 3 different people offered you jobs, you took the one that wanted to pay you the most money. Now, and if you didn't, it's because you were judging it by something else other than money. But you weren't going someplace because you felt more loyalty to, I'll just say, McDonald's instead of Burger King. I mean, these professional franchises are businesses, which leads me to ask the question, does this discussion we're having take on a different element when we get into college athletics, when we get into transfers, when we get into, how about coaches? Let's talk about, Steve Spurrier in South Carolina. I mean, did Steve Spurrier owe the University of South Carolina any loyalty? Did the University of South Carolina owe Steve Spurrier loyalty after he resigned as football coach?
Well, I mean, in that particular instance, I think that Spurrier, I've always said he did. I think he owed it, if not to the university, to the kids on the team to coach out the remainder of the year. I'm never a fan of quitting in the middle of the year. But to your bigger point about moving that into a college discussion, to me, when a coach goes into a living room and tells a kid's mom or a kid's dad, this is the plan for your son, and I'm going to do A, B, and C. At that age, to me, I feel like you should be held to a little bit higher standard where that's concerned. If the coach comes in, if a coach comes in your living room and tells you and your son, look, the plan is, to have your son sit for a couple years, do this, A, B, and C, and by the time that he's a junior, we're planning on having him starting for us, and he's going to be our starting quarterback his junior, senior year, or whatever. And then if you turn around and immediately go the other way on that, I mean, to me, that's kind of dirty.
Do you think you should have to tell mothers if your plan for their sons is to have them dance in front of middle-aged women in their underwear? Should you have to tell them that ahead of time like Clemson did this week? Or should that be something you find out about through social media when you see your son dancing mostly naked in front of women you don't know?
Yeah, that must be the curveball you were talking about.
No, that's not even the curveball.
Oh, that's not even the curveball. I saw that. Yeah, I don't really.
I just wanted to bring it up somewhere or another. We don't have to talk about it.
Yeah,
it kind of makes me nauseous anyway.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. I would venture a guess that that's probably not a discussion that was had in anybody's living room with anybody's mother.
Probably not.
But no, I mean, like I said, if you sit a kid down and you tell the kid, look, and you do A, B, and C.
Guys, whether it's on purpose or not, they lie to these kids routinely, do they not? Every program in the country.
Well,
I mean, like, in some cases, because they can't help it and they really don't know. But to be fair, the flip side of that is that kid can commit and not go there. It's a really wonky situation when you get into recruit. I think the loyalty thing there is not really, it doesn't need to be assumed on either side.
So
now you're saying, though, if you commit to that school like you said you would, then that coach should owe you doing what he said.
I was going to say, if a coach comes in and tells your son, the list of what he expects, and the kid comes and he checks every box and he does everything that is asked for him, that is asked of him, and he's maintaining his. I mean, he's literally been the poster child of what you would want for a player. And then say they come in and say, all right, we're going to pull your scholarship. We need this scholarship for another player. I mean, to me, that is that's a little cheap. And I'm glad that some schools have started going to giving the full 4-year scholarships. I don't think that all have, but I think that's definitely where it needs to go. But no, I think that it is fair to expect some loyalty.
Now, to be fair,
from these coaches and programs, if you're a player.
I think virtually every team that cuts a kid still pays for their education, just not through a sports scholarship. I mean, I think that's pretty standard across the board, even if they're not on the football team or basketball team or whatever. But I see what you're saying. Is it safe to say, then, that it probably behooves recruiters to not make those kinds of promises?
Yeah,
because
but
even if a man thinks he's telling the truth, he doesn't know that. I mean, let's just go back and talk about situations where, kids have come off the bench. Connor Shaw springs to mind. I mean, this was a kid who Spurrier clearly didn't think was ready to play when Garcia was removed from the football team, and he goes on to become the best quarterback in the history of the program pretty much from the first day he started the game. He did actually start the first game that season, but they pulled him in the second half. Anyway, I mean, does a head coach owe loyalty to a kid that's a fifth-year run? Like, let's get into the Clemson situation. How much loyalty does Dabo Swinney owe a guy like Kelly Bryant, who's been there for going into his 5th year now? He waited, and he played pretty good football for you last year. You made the Final Four with him at quarterback. The only game you lost it because he got hurt. All right, do you owe him a season of starts when you have a kid behind him who most people think is already better as a freshman?
I think.
I mean, you don't have to use that specific example.
Well, that's
not Clemson anywhere.
Well, no, anywhere. that's a great example.
Or in your mind, is the condition? What did Dabo tell Kelly Bryant's mom 6 years ago?
Well, no, I think that it's. As long as if Kelly Bryant had and I'm assume that he's done everything that Swinney's asked him to do, or he wouldn't be in this position. But I think as long as Kelly Bryant is performing at a high level, an acceptable level, then yes, I think that for someone who has stuck around the program and could have gone somewhere else, and you've seen a half a dozen quarterbacks, it seems like, transfer out of there the last handful of years. For him to be the guy that did stick around and did wait his turn,
right?
Yes, I mean, I kind of feel like like I said, as long as he's not going out there and being terrible, I kind of feel like Swinney does kind of owe him a little bit.
Now the thing about Dabo is I have no idea. I've never heard that he promises things in recruiting. I don't know that that's true or not true. I just don't know.
Well, I think once you get to a certain level and you've attained, you've achieved a certain amount of success, I think the standard line when you go into a house is, look, I'm going to give Joe an opportunity to compete for a starting position, and when you're a team like Clemson is right now, that's good enough. I don't think that you have to go in promising
no
teams
but we're not
things.
talking about how he's recruiting now. I mean, Lou Holtz.
All right, take Will Corn. Take the Will
ahead.
Corn situation, for instance. They brought in Will Corn, and basically, so the first thing Dabo Swinney, he was part of he was down there when Corn came in. He was part of all of that. The first thing they did was basically ruin Will Corn's career and then cast him aside like he was yesterday's lunch.
There have been lengthy articles written about that, but the crazy thing about it is the one guy who doesn't seem to agree with any of that's Will Corn. I can't wrap my head around why. I mean, it seems to me it's really, really obvious that the best case scenario is that Clemson just diagnosed him as having the wrong injury when he actually had a fractured collarbone, and he threw on that collarbone against Georgia Tech in Dabo Swinney's first game as an interim head coach, and it did. It ruined his arm. But I have to give some of that decision making about what I think about it to Will Corn, who apparently has no hard feelings towards Clemson at all, and is still somewhat involved in their football team.
Well, I could get on the myriad of reasons on why it would behoove him to take the high road on that, but
no, good point. Now the curveball I was thinking about is what about the rare situation, like the Deion Sanders situation, where a guy is playing two different sports simultaneously, and the Braves are in a playoff hunt, but the Falcons have a game. Like, who does the player have loyalty to in that situation? Or let's go back to the famous, Bruce Ellington situation in Columbia where Darren Horn accused Steve Spurrier of poaching, I believe was the word he used, poaching this player from my team, and now he misses a third of the season because he's on the football team. Spurrier obviously denied it, and who knows what actually happened. But in that situation, in the Deion situation, does the player owe one team more than the other? Do you have to look at the situation of both teams? And then
I think
in the other situation, does Roy Williams owe Larry Fedora some sort of loyalty if he honestly believes that kid starting at cornerback could play in the NBA and he has no future in the NFL? Should I go talk to that kid? Should I go around Larry Fedora? How does loyalty work inside organizations like that?
Well, we'll tackle your Deion reference. I think
I gave you two really different situations.
We'll go Deion first. I think that's such a rare.
It is
a rare situation. I would say I would err on the side of who's in the play. Of course, what Deion did is he played in both. Right.
He got on an airplane and played in the Braves game that night when he had played for the Falcons that morning.
If you're able to do that, God bless you.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that to me in that situation you go with the playoff game.
Sure.
But as far as your other scenario that you brought up, no, that was there is a good way that Steve Spurrier could have gone about that, going basically behind Darren Horn's back to poach Bruce Ellington.
To be fair, it's never been. No one's ever confirmed either side of that thing.
We know what happened. I mean, it's pretty clear what happened. If nothing else, it went through the back channels and got to Ellington, and the situation with Darren Horn probably wasn't great. And to me, that was an easy call. But there was a right way that could have been done. You could have.
I think that probably had a lot to do with the fact that Spurrier just didn't regard Darren Horn as one thing or the other.
Right. Yeah. But do you think it's fair to expect it if you're a player or a coach or a GM or organization, is it fair to expect some of that from one side or the other?
I guess I just find the interesting part of it is we all talk about loyalty and this, that, and the other. I mean, how loyal would the Spurs fans get back to Kawhi? How loyal would they be to Kawhi if he was the one costing them games all of a sudden? I mean, all of this stuff is fine and good. People still want to win, and that's really the only thing they want. And then they want this stuff as a cherry on top of their Sunday. Is that fair? I mean, that's the thing. This loyalty is highly filtered when it comes to fans. They want players to be loyal, or they want whoever to be loyal, but they want to win way more than they want loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, I like winning. I like when my team win.
But my point being is, I think at some point you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can think that it would be nice. You and I have talked about this, man. I hate that 2/3 of the guys that have played for the Cowboys and or the Redskins play for the other team. I think it waters down the rivalry. I mean, the Yankees and the Red Sox are a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of guys play for both of these franchises. I mean, but we live in an age of free agency. That's how it is. A lot of these guys, I mean, they're just sort of like mercenaries. They go from one team to the next. I mean, and that's today's pro sports.
I was going to say, the days of players staying around one city and living in that city once their playing days are over, those days are long gone. As are the days of teams, I think, if they're smart, really, of overpaying the 35-year-old point guard a la Houston Rockets or something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's just sports is big business right now, and you can't you cannot lock yourself into bad deals on the professional level just for the sake of tugging at the heartstrings. And I think on the college level, I think there's a little more room for it because, one, there is no limit on the number of guys you can have on a team. In football, you could dress out 115 kids if you want to. So I think there's a little bit more room for it in college. You're dealing with kids as opposed to grown men and millions of dollars.
Do you think that some of this is a generational thing? In other words, do you think
yes.
In the Spurs situation, do you think the 45-year-old Spurs fan is angrier than the 25-year-old Spurs fan?
No, I mean, I think if you're a fan of the team, then you understand, what went on and what happened, and I would like to think that you're mature enough to get
Joe
it.
Montana and Troy Aikman and John Riggins and Dan Marino, they were those teams, and
right.
Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan. This generation has grown up watching LeBron play for 3 different teams.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I think that those days are long gone, and they're not coming back.
No, they're not.
No.
They're not. I mean, that's why I'm asking. Do you think that the younger generation who, are bigger NBA fans than everyone else anyway, I mean, that they're just going to be more acclimated to this kind of thing?
Yeah, I think you almost become, like you said, you've seen so many Cowboys and Redskins and so many Yankees and Red Sox that have gone and switched to the other side, and teams that have traded these guys, like DeMar DeRozan wanted to stay, and they've traded them to their rival teams. I think you almost become, as a fan, maybe desensitized to some of it a little bit.
The real warning here is if you can't afford to buy jerseys for your children, don't.
No.
Those jerseys are not safe.
No.
You can't buy those jerseys. You stay away from that. And just as a side note, children's librarians need to be really careful too, because you can end up with some outdated stuff really fast.
Like
just throwing that out there.
Like yearly.
Yeah, Carmelo. That book from 2013 just isn't as attractive as it used to be.
How do you think that all those Carmelo Anthony fans that bought their Thunder jerseys are feeling right now?
Well, probably about the same as the ones who still have a Nuggets jersey. I don't know. I mean, fortunately, I consider myself too old to wear a jersey of any type. I seriously doubt you have that problem. I suspect you're a jersey wearer.
I've got a couple, but I haven't bought any in a number of years.
That is not my style. My oldest son has a Clinton Portis jersey from way back in the day, but that's sort of a cool retro thing now, so it works out. It works out.
No. That's
Somebody
not
got it for him. A relative of mine that lives in Washington got it for him when my mother died, and when he got it, it was 9 sizes too big for him at that time. So now it's just kind of this cool Clinton Portis jersey.
As I say,
no one's ever worn.
Now it's just right.
Yeah. No, it's still too big for him. I don't think he'll ever be big enough to wear that jersey, but that's just how it is. With that particular child. He's a thin guy.
He's a skinny fella. All right, that's it. Like I said, check us out on Facebook, on Twitter. We're everywhere. Make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify and iTunes. Click the 5 stars, leave the review. Tell us how awesome we are. Again, go check out StadiumScene.tv. Listen to some of their other podcasts when you've gotten done listening to ours.